So it's not even 12 hours later and I am at the airport again, heading to my 50th country. I cannot wait to show you this place. Right, I've been at the airport for a little while and I just got some food. I forgot that the international area has kind of the worst food. So if you're ever in Cape Town and you're flying out, make sure you get some food in town beforehand because you pay a lot and it's just not really worth it. But flight is coming up, can't wait. I just got back from visiting my 50th country and I need to debrief the entire experience with you. If you're just coming to my channel for the first time, my name's Amy and I travel pretty much full time while creating content for a living, and I've somehow found myself in Zambia just a couple of weeks before turning 30. I'm in Zambia, just got off the plane in Livingstone. That's how they say it. I would say Livingstone, but yeah, we're here and I was the first one off. Super easy to get through immigration. Let's go. My visit to Zambia was unlike any travel experience I've had before, so I'm gonna get into my first impressions of the country and everything that went along with this experience and just give you my honest thoughts. And for a little context, I was in South Africa before going to Zambia and I had visited many times before, I think 4 times before this trip. And I did a lot of hiking. I finally did a road trip and saw a completely different side of South Africa, which I loved. We camped on top of the tallest waterfall in the world. I have a few other videos, so I will put them above for you to check them out. I would pause this video, go watch those and come back. But yeah, it was incredible and I had such a good experience. But since I'd been to South Africa many times already, I wanted to see more of Africa. I'd already seen some of East Africa, but I thought it'd be a good opportunity to go check out Zambia because there was a really great work opportunity, work trade with Worldpackers, which I'll actually get into a little bit deeper next week's video, but it was a great opportunity, so I decided to book the flights from Cape Town. So I only spent about a week in Zambia. It was supposed to be a bit longer, but my trip was cut short for reasons I'll get into a little bit later in this video. But let's just get right into the first impressions of what I thought of the country. So I just arrived at the hostel I'm gonna be volunteering at, and I'm gonna go down to the main strip here in Livingstone to go get some food and a SIM card and go check it out. Safety wise, it was a huge difference compared to what the safety was like in South Africa. If you've been to South Africa or if you've seen any of my videos on the country, you will know it's not the safest country to visit, especially as a solo female traveler. So it felt a lot safer as soon as I got to Zambia. And actually the crime rate is a lot higher. It's actually one of the highest in all of Africa, in South Africa specifically. And Zambia falls in the top 10 like lowest crime rates in all of Africa. So it was a stark contrast. I felt like I could walk around with my phone out, which you can't do in South Africa. I didn't really walk alone at night in Zambia, but I was in Livingstone, Zambia, and it felt a lot safer. People did say like don't walk around at night. However, I heard that if you do, it's not really a high chance anything bad will happen, especially because it's a very touristy town. One thing I wasn't aware of when I first got to Zambia was malaria. I'd been to Uganda and that was a risk, and I just put on a mosquito repellent cream every single day when I was there, twice a day. I didn't have malaria pills there, but when I got to Zambia, everyone was talking about it and I realized, darn, I really should have got on this before I came here. And luckily, if you are like me and not very prepared and you get to Zambia without any anti-malaria pills, you're just fine because you can go to the pharmacy and pick it up pretty easily. I think they sell it over the counter, you can just ask for it. But luckily for me, one of the girls in my dorm room actually just had some extra pills. A lot of people end up having extra, so she gave it to me and I just took those for a couple days after I left the country as well. I wouldn't recommend doing what I did and just like not having any pills, but I did hear from locals it's not a very high risk zone in Livingstone, so it's a little bit more of a risk if you're going to be like out in the bush and doing a lot of safaris and stuff like that. But if you are just kind of coming to the town to see Victoria Falls, then you should be fine. But once again, I guess it's better safe than sorry when it comes to malaria, so go get some pills at the pharmacy if you do forget it. When it comes to money, surprisingly, a lot of places accepted credit card and any sort of card in general in Zambia, at least around Livingstone. So yeah, it's pretty easy. If you do want to take cash out, you can go to ATMs. They're really easy to find. There was one in particular that didn't charge a fee at all, which was amazing. If I remember the name, I'll put it on screen for you guys. But it was super easy to take cash out. It felt safe. There was always someone standing, like some sort of officer standing at the ATM just to make sure you aren't gonna get robbed or anything like that. But it was really easy. The only place I actually used cash was at the bar at the hostel because they didn't accept card. But pretty much everywhere else I went accepted card, including Victoria Falls. So you can kind of get by without cash, but if you're gonna take taxis, you do need a little bit of cash for that as well. So they use the Zambian kwacha, and the conversion to Canadian dollars was actually really easy. 10 kwacha is about 51 cents Canadian, so about half. And it was super easy for me to just do the mental math to calculate how much I was spending. I think it's around 35 cents USD to 10 kwacha. So pretty easy to mentally do the math if you're there and you're trying to figure out what you're spending. And when it comes to tipping, 10% is usually the standard. I think around Africa in general, but definitely in Zambia. And if you can tip more, always tip more. I try to always tip more because I know that the people are not earning very much money at the bars and restaurants. So if you have a few extra dollars, it doesn't hurt to just give them a really nice tip. Because Victoria Falls is so close to Livingstone, the main activity is to go see these falls, and there are lots of tours. There isn't a whole lot that you can do like on a budget, if I'm gonna be honest. There was a museum right across from the hostel I stayed at that I think was like $5 US to enter, maybe 10, and a few like markets you could browse through and stuff like that. However, the main activities are paid ones, so definitely come with some cash and have some extra money set aside if you want to experience Zambia, and this part of Zambia at least, to the fullest. I personally heard amazing things from the people who did the rafting experience. You can book it through the hostel I was working with called Jolly Boys, or there's lots of other tour operators that do it. But yeah, everyone said it was amazing. They raved about it, even people who were kind of skeptical about rafting. I think it's just one of the best places in the world to go rafting. And I also met a couple people who did the micro flight over the falls, and that looked insane. It's definitely pretty expensive. They have like a 15 and 30-minute option, but yeah, like it looked really cool. You're in this like tiny 2-seater plane, and that would be a really cool experience. That's pretty unique if you're up for it. And you can also do bungee jumping when you're at the falls. There was a bridge and we could watch people go bungee jumping from there. I've already been bungee jumping twice, so I wasn't really about to do that. But there's a lot of other activities like a sunset cruise that's really popular, like kind of like a booze cruise that people do, and that sounded like a lot of fun. There's so many things you can do, but you definitely need the money to do it. Today we are in Zambia and we are heading to Victoria Falls with some of the people I met at my hostel, so let's go check it out. We're at Victoria Falls and it is insane. It is so wet, but it's incredible. Definitely recommend coming here. So Victoria Falls, the main attraction you might be coming to Zambia for, is actually called Mosi-oa-Tunya. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correct, but that is the original name. Victoria Falls is the colonizer name. So let's try to switch it over, but I know people won't really recognize Mosi-oa-Tunya if they haven't been to Zambia. So just so you know, that's the actual name. To enter the national park where the falls are, you have to pay $20 US as a foreign visitor. It's a lot cheaper for locals, which is great because it should be more accessible for them. And it's honestly really, really cool. I'm from Ontario, so obviously there's Niagara Falls in Canada, and I've been there many times. I feel like it felt like what most people probably imagine visiting Niagara Falls would feel like, because it's in nature and there's like this insane waterfall in front of you that's thundering with water, and it's so incredible. But Niagara Falls is really, like, it's beautiful, but it's in this like trashy town and on a border, and it doesn't really feel like it's in nature whatsoever. So I loved visiting these falls because you were like going through a path and there's just trees and rainbows, and it was incredible. I honestly loved it. And you can walk along the falls, like through this path, for easily half an hour, probably even longer. There's so many viewpoints where you can just stop, take in the views, and get soaking wet. That's another thing. You're gonna have to wear clothes that you don't care about getting drenched, and definitely wear sandals, ones that you won't slip out of too easily, because people wore boots and they are drenched and soaked through. So yeah, wear some sandals if you can. I had Birkenstocks, they were perfect, just these plastic ones. And I wore like a tank top and shorts, and I just left it out after to dry in the sun. When it is wet season, I was just there during wet season apparently, which was in March. But in wet season, apparently the Zambia side is really beautiful because the falls are super full. But if you're there in dry season, you might want to pay extra to go to the Zimbabwe side and see it from there. Because if you're not familiar, the falls border Zimbabwe and Zambia. They are cheaper to enter through Zambia, the $20 US, and I think it's like $50 or $70 US to enter from the Zimbabwe side. Plus, depending on the country you're from, you might have to also pay for an additional visa to enter Zimbabwe. If you have the extra cash, you might want to go to both sides. Moving on, my first impression of the Zambian people is that they are so incredibly kind and really friendly. Of course, you're gonna get people that are gonna walk up to you and try to sell you some little trinkets, souvenirs, bracelets that they've made, and they call themselves artists. Every person you meet is an artist. But they will ask you lots of questions, want to know where you're from, and I'd say like maybe like 50% of the time they're trying to sell you something if they come up to you on the street. The other time people are just curious. I've met a lot of people who are super nice, and if you're staying there for a while it might get old, but a lot of people kind of pass through Livingstone area and they don't spend too much time there, so just be kind to these people. They will try to sell you something. If you're looking for a souvenir, it can really help them out. Otherwise, they are super friendly. The staff that worked at the hostel I was at was so nice. Every single local I met was really kind, and it didn't feel dangerous at all talking to these people on the street. They were just super friendly, and of course kids are gonna be really interested in you, especially if they haven't really seen that many white people or just people of different skin colors. I know I saw so many kids that were like really excited to see me walking down the street because of something different. They're really friendly, nothing bad to say about the Zambian people. As I mentioned at the start of the video, Zambia was my 50th country, and I was so excited to have some time to explore and just see more of this country and see what it was all about. But unfortunately, life had different plans. I found out the second day waking up, so my first full day in the country, that I had lost my Nana, and we were really close. I spent a lot of time with her the past couple of years, and she's the one person in my life who like really supported my travels and would have loved to see and hear about Zambia after the trip. So that was hard. I was also volunteering at the hostel, and it was my first day volunteering really. So to find out I had lost someone in my family that I was close to was really difficult, and grieving when you're so far away was also hard. And I had no idea if I was going to be flying home for the funeral, if I would make it in time because I was so far away. So I kind of spent most of that week just like waiting to hear about the arrangements to see if I could make it home. And then I had to spend a lot of time reorganizing my flights and fly. I flew 3 days to get home. It took me, 3 days because I had to stop in Cape Town, then Munich, London, Halifax, then Toronto. And I had an overnight layover in London, where I had to sleep at the airport. So it was a journey, and even rearranging all of that was a lot. But luckily I met so many amazing people that really distracted me when I needed it and took my mind off everything. And even though I was so far away, it was probably one of the best places I could be, just because I was able to take my mind off things and kind of distract myself with the volunteer work, which I'll talk about next week. So even though my time in Zambia was cut short, I had a really good experience, and like the best sort of experience I could have had considering the circumstances. And I think I'll definitely have to come back because there are lots of activities I would have loved to do. Like there's a day trip you can do at Chobe National Park, I think, in Botswana, where you can stay a couple days. There's just so much in the area, and I was obviously not mentally there. I was still processing things. In general, I did have a really good time considering. So yeah, I know things kind of took a sad turn with the end of this video. I obviously am still dealing with the loss of my Nana, and it was hard to go home for the funeral, but I am now back in the UK and I'm going to be doing some other travels. So there will be more content here, but thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. You have no idea how much it means and supports my channel just by watching all the videos all the way through. So thanks for being here. And I will see you next week for another video where I talk more in depth about the volunteer experience and how it was. It was one of my favorites to date, so keep an eye out for that one, and I will see you next week. Bye!